In June 1963, Jomo Kenyatta was sworn in as the first Prime Minister of Kenya, marking the beginning of a new chapter for the East African nation. After decades of colonial rule, Kenya was finally on the path to full independence, with Kenyatta at the helm. Kenyatta's premiership began following Kenya's general elections in May 1963, where his party, the Kenya African National Union (KANU), won a decisive victory. He was sworn in as Prime Minister of the newly autonomous government under British rule, with Kenya still officially a monarchy under Queen Elizabeth II. Kenyatta's leadership was immediately associated with his call for unity and reconciliation. His government included members from different ethnic groups, symbolizing his commitment to building a united Kenya after years of division under colonial rule. On December 12, 1963, Kenya officially gained independence, and Kenyatta's leadership transitioned into the role of the head of a fully independent nation. This was a moment of immense pride for Kenyatta, who described it as the happiest day of my life. Kenya's early days of independence were not without challenges. Kenyatta's government faced a major security threat from Somali insurgents, known as the Shifta, who were fighting for the annexation of Kenya's northern frontier district to Somalia. Kenyatta responded by sending troops to the region, backed by British forces, to restore order. Internally, Kenyatta also had to deal with dissent within the military. In January 1964, sections of the Kenyan army mutinied, prompting Kenyatta to call on British troops to put down the rebellion. He immediately raised the pay of the army, police, and prison staff to prevent further unrest. In December 1964, Kenya was officially declared a republic, and Jomo Kenyatta became the country's first president. He now combined the roles of both head of state and head of government, giving him significant executive power. Kenyatta's economic policy was focused on promoting growth and stability. His government adopted a capitalist, pro-Western approach, encouraging foreign investment, while also pushing for Africanization, the transfer of economic power from foreign hands to indigenous Kenyans. Kenyatta's government passed several laws aimed at promoting African-owned businesses, including the establishment of the Kenya National Trading Corporation and the Industrial and Commercial Development Corporation. These organizations provided loans to African entrepreneurs, helping them take control of key sectors like trade, agriculture, and manufacturing. One of Kenyatta's priorities was the expansion of education and healthcare services in Kenya. Between 1964 and 1966, the number of primary schools grew by over 11% and secondary schools by 80%. His government also oversaw the establishment of Kenya's first universities, the University of Nairobi and Kenyatta University. On healthcare, Kenyatta's government introduced free medical services for outpatients and children, significantly improving access to healthcare for the majority of Kenyans. By the late 1970s, life expectancy in Kenya had risen to 55 years, one of the highest in sub-Saharan Africa. Kenyatta's political strategy involved consolidating power under his party, KANU. In 1964, his main opposition, the Kenya African Democratic Union (KADU), dissolved, leaving Kenya effectively a one-party state. This allowed Kenyatta to exert greater control over the country's political landscape, though it also led to growing concerns about authoritarianism. The issue of land ownership was a key focus of Kenyatta's government, as it was one of the most emotive grievances during colonial rule. Using funds provided by the British government, Kenyatta's administration redistributed land from European settlers to indigenous Kenyans, though the process was often criticized for benefiting the political elite. Under Kenyatta's leadership, Kenya experienced rapid economic growth. The country's GDP grew at an average rate of 6.4% between 1965 and 1980, one of the highest in sub-Saharan Africa, driven largely by agriculture, particularly the cultivation of cash crops like tea and coffee. By the time of Kenyatta's death in 1978, he had overseen 15 years of relative stability and prosperity in Kenya. His leadership was not without controversy, particularly regarding corruption and political repression. His contributions to the nation's independence, economic growth, and development are undeniable. Jomo Kenyatta's leadership, from Prime Minister to President, laid the foundation for a modern, independent Kenya. His reforms, vision for a united nation, and commitment to economic growth remain integral to the country's story. Today, Kenyatta is remembered as the father of the nation and a pivotal figure in Africa's journey toward freedom. Watch out for more stories in the next video.